January 1931. This is London. The country is face to face with a grave crisis. The budget must be balanced, whatever sacrifices are entailed.
Helen Forrester's Tuppence to Cross the Mersey. The true story of a young girl and her formerly wealthy family, suddenly thrown into poverty during the Great Depression of the 1930s. Leaving behind the nannies, servants and a privileged middle-class life in the gentler southwest of England, they chose Liverpool as the city to rebuild their fortune. They were in for a terrible shock.
It was January 1931, and we had just arrived in Liverpool, all 9 of us.
Tuppence to Cross the Mersey, famous book by a famous author, Helen Forrester. 4 volumes of autobiography. The first book, Tuppence to Cross the Mersey, written in 1974. We met her, we had the good fortune to meet her in about 1992, and she ended up wanting to use one of our songs to promote her books. Through that friendship, I asked if anyone had ever adapted Tuppence to Cross the Mersey as a play, and was surprised when she said no. So she gave me a 2-year option period to develop a script, which I did. 2 years later, she came to the opening night at the Empire Theatre, and that's where it began. As a musical play, it was a big musical thing, specifically designed for the Empire, and in subsequent years, it's gone on just as an Empire type show. But I always wanted to tour with it, and to do that, I had to sort of, bring it back to its original origins, which was a stage play. It's not just a Liverpool story. That the family, the Forrester family, originate from the southwest of England. So, it's a bit like, not to oversimplify it, but it's a bit like Downton Abbey, having to live amongst the people of Brookside Close, all in the same house.
This is the place.
The door was opened by a stout, untidy blonde, accompanied by the suffocating odour of unwashed bodies, old cooking, and cats. Ah, so you found your way back, did you? Well, come on in.
She helped Mother into a room so shabby and dirty, I can honestly say I'd never seen anything like it before.
Yes. And next to that was a bedroom with 2 double beds crammed together. I mean, no sheets or pillowcases, mind you. Just greasy pillows and grey blankets. Anyway, love, like I says to your husband, I've got 8 other tenants upstairs, and me dad, and me 2 sons on the top floor.
Presumably there is a bathroom.
Of course there is. But whether or not you'll get into it's another matter. I mean, there's 11 of us sharing as it is, and what with your tribe, well, that'll bring it nearer 20.
I tried everywhere. Nobody would take 7 children.
Oh, he's right, love. And besides, I don't do refunds. Now, look, I'll make it as comfortable as I can for you. I'll even put an extra pot under the bed if you like. Save you going down the backyard to use the lavvy in the middle of the night. Billy!
What?
Fetch one of them pots from under your grandfather's bed, will you, and stick it in the middle room.
Right.
Oh, Billy. Better make it the big one.
Right.
And Bill, will you make sure you empty us out first?
The Forrester family, had private nannies, servants, private school education, all that sort of stuff. And then the father, in his naivety, brought the family up to Liverpool, thinking he'd be able to follow in his grandfather's footsteps and make his fortune in this city, not realising that during the Depression of the 1930s, it was the worst place he could have brought his family and 9 to rebuild his fortune.
Look, I'm going to the Labour Exchange tomorrow. I'll be working again by the end of the week. We'll soon be back on our feet. You'll see.
Because they had no idea of how to run a family budget, because, obviously they didn't do very well anyway, which is why he went bankrupt. That made it even worse. So they were worse off, if you like, than all the people that actually originated from Liverpool.
Good morning.
Who's the toff?
Look, what time does it open?
45 minutes ago. This is the bloody queue.
Oh, right. Fine.
Where are you from, mate? It's not very often that you get someone talking all Blundell Sands queuing up here with the likes of us.
Talking Blundell Sands.
You know, talking all posh-like.
Oh, I see. Actually, on the subject of Blundell Sands, I recall having dinner at Blundell Hall a few years ago. Do you know it?
Certainly. I do recall nicking the lead flashing off the very same building.
Probably while you was having your dinner.
Helen was the eldest daughter, was taken out of school in order to try and keep the family together while the mother and father tried to find work, and she, of course, wanted to make her own way in life.
Helen, first thing in the morning, you'll need to get Brian, Tony, and Fiona washed and dressed. They need to be enrolled at the elementary school. You too, Alan.
But what about me?
What about you? Your father will be at the Labour Exchange, and I need help with the baby.
But, Mother, I'll get behind with my studies and I can't
Stop
afford
fussing. We will enroll you in school when I'm well enough. Now fetch another bottle for the baby. He needs feeding.
I think the biggest challenge with the piece is how to tell such a kind of big story, such a wide-ranging story on stage, you know, without having access to, you know, loads of different sets and scenes and that sort of thing. So what we've come up with is a very simple, but I think very theatrical way of doing it.
Mother says I have to stay at home while she goes out to look for work, but I want to go to school like everyone else. I don't want to look after babies. It isn't fair.
Be quiet, Helen. Stop being so selfish.
I'm not being selfish. You are. You promised.
Helen, that's enough.
Ah, now look what you've done. You've gone and upset the baby.
I read the book and it's such an amazing part, and for an actor to sort of get your teeth into it, I knew that it would be a good role to play.
Courage, Helen. That is what is required to succeed in life. To do in our hearts what we know is right. You speak to your parents and remind them they have a responsibility to see that you receive an education.
You both have a responsibility to see that I receive an education.
I have to go to work, and the general welfare of this family demands that you must stay at home.
No, I won't. I'm not the mother. You are.
How dare you!
The way that Bob's directed the piece is that it constantly flows. So you might be in one mood in one piece and then 30 seconds later be in a completely different one.
But Mrs. Hicks, why do the sailors always go to the house across the road?
Come on. Don't you think you lot better be getting inside?
One of the things that Helen Forrester and I spoke about a lot during the last musical version of the show, you know, was the ability to tour Tuppence Across the Mersey, but because it was purpose-built for the Empire and it was so huge, we weren't able to tour that production. When I wrote it originally, I didn't have much concept of the fact that theatres would vary so drastically in size.
If only I had enough money to buy a ticket for the ferry boat, we could go and visit Grandma. I'm sure if I explained what was happening to us, she would forgive Mother and Father and come to our rescue. It only cost twopence to cross the River Mersey, Edward. 4 little halfpennies. 8 tiny farthings. But right here and now, it just might as well be £1 million.